There are women who seem to live alone, but in reality, their lives are filled with harmony and strength. These women don't seek company, they don't chase attention, and they don't waste energy trying to meet other people's expectations. They are confident in themselves and their path, which often unsettles those who are used to seeking validation from others. Carl Jung, who deeply explored the nature of the human psyche, pointed out that we often find ourselves irritated by traits in others that we reject within ourselves. This is what he called the shadow. Perhaps that is why a woman who lives alone often becomes the subject of concern. She does not need support, does not try to please, and is not dependent on external approval. She exists by her own rules, and this is her true power. Her life does not embody loneliness as weakness or isolation. Rather, it is a result of her maturity and self-sufficiency. She doesn't seek approval from others because she has learned to value her independence and inner freedom. She doesn't strive to be a mother, a wife, or the perfect friend. She simply lives her life doing what she believes is important and necessary for herself. Jung described the process of individuation as the journey of breaking free from alien roles and external expectations until one can finally be their true self. The woman who has chosen solitude has already gone through this journey. She no longer needs recognition. She has found her inner center and is walking the path of self-realization. She lives not for others, but for herself. Her worth is not determined by the opinions of others, and her happiness does not depend on external factors. Such a woman often becomes a symbol of strength for others. She doesn't seek approval, and she doesn't try to fit into anyone's mold. Her life is not about proving anything, but about asserting her own value and freedom. She lives by her own rules, and this brings her inner fulfillment. Her happiness is not measured by the numb. There are women who seem to live alone, but in reality, their lives are filled with harmony and strength. These women don't seek company, they don't chase attention, and they don't waste energy trying to meet other people's expectations. They are confident in themselves and their path, which often unsettles those who are used to seeking validation from others. Carl Jung, who deeply explored the nature of the human psyche, pointed out that we often find ourselves irritated by traits in others that we reject within ourselves. This is what he called the shadow. Perhaps that is why a woman who lives alone often becomes the subject of concern. She does not need support, does not try to please, and is not dependent on external approval. She exists by her own rules, and this is her true power. Her life does not embody loneliness as weakness or isolation. Rather, it is a result of her maturity and self-sufficiency. She doesn't seek approval from others because she's learned to value her independence and inner freedom. She doesn't strive to be a mother, a wife, or the perfect friend. She simply lives her life, doing what she believes is important and necessary for herself. Jung described the process of individuation as the journey of breaking free from alien roles and external expectations until one can finally be their true self. The woman who has chosen solitude has already gone through this journey. She no longer needs recognition, she has found her inner center and is walking the path of self-realization. She lives not for others, but for herself. Her worth is not determined by the opinions of others, and her happiness does not depend on external factors. Such a woman often becomes a symbol of strength for others. She doesn't seek approval, and she doesn't try to fit into anyone's mold. Her life is not about proving anything, but about asserting her own value and freedom. She lives by her own rules, and this brings her inner fulfillment. Her happiness is not measured by the number of people around her, and her value is found within herself, in her ability to simply be. The shadow, as Jung taught, holds all those parts of our personality that we reject or are unaware of. When we encounter a woman living alone, we often project onto her our own hidden desires and fears, things we don't find within ourselves. But perhaps she, as a mirror, reminds us that we've forgotten about our own inner wholeness and harmony. Her life is not about loneliness, but about independence. It is not isolation, but the choice to be truly herself. She doesn't want to meet anyone's expectations. She doesn't try to please society. She simply exists, enjoying each moment. And perhaps this is her secret, her ability to be at peace in solitude and to embrace that solitude as the greatest strength of people around her, and her value is found within herself, in her ability to simply be. The shadow, as Jung taught, holds all those parts of our personality that we reject or are unaware of. When we encounter a woman living alone, we often project onto her our own hidden desires and fears, things we don't find within ourselves. But perhaps she, as a mirror, reminds us that we've forgotten about our own inner wholeness and harmony. Her life is not about loneliness, but about independence. It is not isolation, but the choice to be truly herself. She doesn't want to meet anyone's expectations. She doesn't try to please society. She simply exists, enjoying each moment. And perhaps this is her secret, her ability to be at peace in solitude, and to embrace that solitude as the greatest strength. Such a woman understands that loneliness is not a punishment, nor the absence of something important. It is her way of being in complete harmony with herself. She doesn't seek salvation in relationships, nor does she use other people to fill the void within. Her life is full of meaning because she herself is the source of that meaning. She has learned to find joy in being alone, creating her own reality and shaping it by her own rules. There is a myth that loneliness always means longing for something, a sign that something is wrong with the person. However, for her, loneliness is a release from external pressures and the ability to listen to and understand her inner voice. In a society where constant signals about the need to be with someone, have a partner, and build relationships are heard, she remains independent because, for her, the most important thing is her own self. This inner space allows her to be honest and free from external expectations. For her, loneliness is a choice, not a forced circumstance. She does not strive to prove her worth to anyone. Her value lies in staying true to herself and her ideals. She understands that there is no place in her life for superficial connections, because she has learned to distinguish the true depth of relationships and finds it in remaining aligned with herself. Those who truly understand her do not see loneliness but the depth of her awareness. She is not just alone, she is whole, and her solitude is not emptiness but a source of strength. She knows that her life matters, and that meaning comes from within her, not from those around her. This perspective on loneliness opens up opportunities for growth and development. In solitude, she can focus on her inner world, improve herself, engage in things that bring her joy, and cultivate the qualities that make her strong. She is not afraid to be herself. She enjoys the process and uses it as a resource to achieve harmony with the world around her. Her life is not a struggle against loneliness, but an acceptance and use of it as a tool for growth. She becomes the best version of herself, not through relationships with others, but through her relationship with herself. And this is where her true freedom lies. She doesn't need to explain her solitude to anyone because she understands its importance. It's a space where she finds clarity, peace, and connection with her deepest desires. She knows that in silence, the loudest truths are revealed. It's in these moments of solitude that she gains insight into who she truly is, beyond societal labels and expectations. Her sense of self is not defined by the opinions or judgments of others. She doesn't need validation because she knows her worth. She doesn't cling to fleeting connections or try to fill the void with distractions. Her worth is innate, not dependent on external circumstances. She has cultivated a relationship with herself that is nurturing, patient, and unshakable. Through solitude, she discovers her own strength and resilience. She has learned to trust herself and her intuition, to walk her own path, even if it means standing apart from the crowd. This independence is not loneliness, but rather empowerment. She finds freedom in her solitude, and with this freedom comes the ability to live authentically and unapologetically. Her solitude is also a space for creativity, for exploration, for dreams. It's where she can create, reflect, and grow in the ways that are meaningful to her. It's not a void to be filled, but a fertile ground where ideas, passions, and new possibilities are born. She uses this space to cultivate the life she wants without compromise or haste. By embracing her solitude, she becomes a magnet for those who resonate with her energy. She doesn't need to chase connections. The right people are drawn to her authenticity and self-assuredness. Her inner peace is contagious, and those who encounter her find themselves inspired by her quiet confidence and strength. In her world, loneliness is not a burden, it's a gift. It's the foundation of her personal power and the key to unlocking a life that is truly hers. She is not defined by others or by the need for validation. She is defined by the love she has for herself, the growth she has achieved, and the way she chooses to live her life on her own terms. And in that, she finds her peace. She has mastered the art of being alone without feeling abandoned, for she knows the value of her own company. She doesn't seek out external noise to fill her life. Instead, she nurtures her inner voice, learning to listen carefully to what it speaks. This quiet space is her sanctuary, where the world fades away, and she can hear her thoughts with crystal clarity. While others may fear isolation, she has come to embrace it as an opportunity for self-discovery. It's in these moments that she reflects on her growth, considers her dreams, and even acknowledges her past mistakes. She doesn't dwell on them, but rather sees them as lessons that shape the person she has become. She sees every experience, good or bad, as a stepping stone toward becoming the best version of herself. Her self-sufficiency doesn't make her cold or distant, it makes her more compassionate. By learning to love herself, she is able to extend that same love and understanding to others. She no longer seeks approval, but offers kindness, knowing that it comes from a place of authenticity, not from a desire to be liked or admired. She understands that relationships, whether friendships or romances, are meant to complement her life, not complete it. She doesn't rely on others for her happiness, nor does she expect anyone to fix her problems. She is her own source of strength and happiness, and this independence allows her to engage in relationships from a place of mutual respect and balance. She gives love freely, without expectation, knowing that love, in its purest form, is not transactional. And as she moves forward in life, she takes her solitude with her. It is not something that is left behind, it is a part of her. Even in the company of others, she knows how to be at peace with herself. She is never truly alone because she carries with her the richness of her own soul. Her solitude becomes a space of deep, unshakable contentment. It's a reflection of her inner world, which is whole and complete. She no longer feels the need to fill the gaps with fleeting distractions because she has come to realize that her life is already abundant, exactly as it is. She is enough, always has been, always will be. This peace she has cultivated in solitude is not something that can be easily disturbed. The world may be chaotic and people may come and go, but within her there remains a constant, an unwavering sense of self. She stands strong in her authenticity, unafraid to be seen for who she truly is. And it is in this quiet strength that she finds her greatest power. She no longer seeks external validation because she has learned the most important truth. She is her own validation. The opinions of others hold less weight in her life, as she knows the value of self-acceptance. She doesn't need to prove herself to anyone. Her worth is already established. Her confidence comes not from arrogance, but from a deep understanding of her own worth and capabilities. This inner peace, this self-reliance, is the foundation upon which she builds everything in her life. It's why she is able to take risks, pursue her passions, and step into new challenges with the assurance that, no matter what happens, she will always have herself to rely on. She doesn't fear failure, because she knows that even in those moments, she will emerge wiser, stronger, and more resilient. Her ability to stand alone is not a sign of weakness or loneliness. It's a manifestation of her strength and clarity. She knows that she doesn't need to follow the crowd because she is walking her own path, one that is uniquely hers. And it is enough. Her solitude is not a void that needs to be filled, but a sacred space where she can recharge, reflect, and realign with her true self. She can be with others and still be fully at peace in her own presence, knowing that her happiness does not depend on the people around her, but on her inner state of mind. It is this mindset that makes her a force to be reckoned with. She is calm amidst the storm, rooted in herself, grounded in her own truth. Her life is her own, and she lives it on her terms. And when the world becomes too loud, she retreats into her solitude, not as an escape, but as a return to herself. Here in this quiet space, she finds clarity, inspiration, and strength. She is always becoming, always evolving, but she never forgets the importance of staying true to herself. She is her own home, her own safe space. And in this home, she is always at peace. Her self-awareness empowers her to navigate the world with a unique grace. She doesn't need external approval because she is rooted in her own beliefs and values. While others may seek affirmation or validation from the outside, she knows that true peace comes from within. The louder the world becomes, the more she listens to the quiet voice inside of her, the one that whispers truth, not doubt. She doesn't need to compete, she doesn't need to compare, she simply is, and in her being, she is enough. Her journey is not about surpassing others, but about becoming the fullest expression of herself. Every step she takes is aligned with her purpose, and every challenge she faces only deepens her understanding of her own strength. She embraces change with open arms, knowing that each new experience is an opportunity to expand, learn, and grow. She adapts without losing sight of her core, remaining true to herself even as she evolves. The essence of who she is never wavers, even as her external circumstances change. She doesn't need anyone else to define her worth, because she has already defined it for herself. Her worth is not contingent on the approval of others or the success she attains. It is intrinsic. She is worthy simply because she exists. When the world demands more, she gives herself the space to be enough, exactly as she is. And in that space, she nurtures herself, her dreams, and her peace. There is no rush. She moves at her own pace, trusting that all things unfold in their own time. Her inner world is where she finds her sanctuary. She builds her life from this place of strength and self-assurance, knowing that she doesn't need to chase after what the world says she should want. Instead, she creates her own path, one that leads her to a life of fulfillment and purpose, crafted entirely by her own hand. She sees the beauty in her journey, not just the destination. Each step is a lesson, each moment a chance to evolve. She embraces both the light and dark parts of herself, understanding that it is in the contrasts that she finds depth. Every experience, whether good or challenging, adds richness to the story she is writing with her life. She no longer seeks perfection because she has learned that it is in imperfection that true authenticity lies. She knows that being perfectly imperfect is what makes her relatable and human. She doesn't hide from her flaws. Instead, she celebrates them as part of the masterpiece she is becoming. Her confidence is quiet but unshakable. She doesn't need to announce her worth to the world because she exudes it naturally. People can sense her inner peace and strength, drawn to her not by her outward appearance, but by the magnetic energy of someone who is at peace with themselves. She chooses kindness over criticism, love over fear. She does not engage in petty drama or distractions because she understands that energy is better spent cultivating her own growth. She surrounds herself with people who reflect the same values, who inspire and challenge her to rise higher. She's not afraid to stand alone when the path she must walk requires solitude. In her solitude, she finds clarity and peace, the space to recharge, reflect, and reconnect with her deepest desires. She understands that solitude is not loneliness, but a sacred space for renewal and self-discovery. Her life is an expression of her deepest truths, and she takes every opportunity to live authentically. No longer bound by the expectations of others, she creates her own standards, her own rules, and builds a life that aligns with her soul's calling. She walks with purpose, not hurried but deliberate, knowing that every moment is a choice to move closer to the life she envisions. She doesn't let fear or doubt steer her decisions, for she has learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. She understands that success is not a destination, but a journey, one that is uniquely hers. There is no need to compare her story to anyone else's, because she knows that the only true competition is with herself. She is in the process of becoming the best version of who she was always meant to be. She has mastered the art of surrender, knowing when to take action and when to let go. She has learned to trust the flow of life, understanding that some things must be released in order to make room for the new. In letting go, she finds freedom, knowing that what is meant for her will always find its way. She finds beauty in simplicity and peace in the stillness. It's in the quiet moments that she reconnects with her deepest desires, remembering that happiness doesn't always require loud celebrations. Sometimes, it's found in the small, everyday joys, a warm cup of tea, the comfort of a quiet evening, or the feeling of the sun on her skin. She has learned to forgive, not just others, but herself. She no longer holds on to past mistakes or regrets. She understands that everything that has happened in her life has shaped her into who she is today. Each experience, whether painful or joyous, has been a lesson, and she is grateful for it all. She stands tall in her authenticity, knowing that her light shines brightest when she is unapologetically herself. She doesn't shrink or dim her light to fit into the expectations of others. Instead, she radiates her truth, inspiring others to do the same. She chooses to focus on what she can control: the thoughts she thinks, the words she speaks, and the actions she takes. The rest, she releases. She doesn't waste energy on things beyond her influence, for she knows that her peace comes from focusing on the present and being mindful of her own responses. She walks through life with grace, embracing each chapter with an open heart. The challenges that come her way are not obstacles, but opportunities for growth. She knows that every setback is simply the universe guiding her towards something better, something that aligns more closely with her purpose. She has become her own biggest advocate, listening to the whispers of her soul and honoring her intuition. Her inner voice is the compass that leads her, and she trusts it without hesitation. She knows that when she listens to herself, she is aligning with her truest path. Her relationships are rooted in respect and understanding. She attracts people who mirror the love and authenticity she pours into herself. She understands that relationships are a mirror, reflecting back to her the energy she radiates. Therefore, she chooses to surround herself with those who inspire, uplift, and challenge her to be her best self. She doesn't seek validation from external sources because she knows her worth is intrinsic. She is whole, complete, and enough, just as she is. Her self-love is not dependent on anyone else's approval. It comes from within, from the deep well of acceptance she has cultivated over time. She has mastered the delicate balance between ambition and contentment, understanding that striving for more doesn't mean she isn't grateful for what she already has. She is grateful for every step of her journey, for every lesson learned, and for the strength that has been built through the challenges she has faced. She sees setbacks as stepping stones, knowing that growth comes from moments of discomfort. She doesn't shy away from failure because she understands it is not the opposite of success, it is part of it. Each failure is simply a lesson that brings her closer to her goals, and she embraces it with resilience. Her confidence comes from knowing that her worth is not defined by her achievements or the approval of others. She is confident in her ability to adapt, grow, and navigate whatever life throws her way. Her strength lies in her unwavering belief that she is capable of overcoming any challenge that comes her way. She continues to evolve, always open to change and transformation. She knows that growth isn't linear, and that it's okay to stumble, pause, or take a detour along the way. Life's unpredictability is something she has learned to embrace, trusting that every twist and turn is leading her to exactly where she needs to be. Her life is a reflection of her inner peace. She doesn't chase after external validation because she knows that the most important approval she needs is her own. She honors her feelings, her needs, and her desires, understanding that she is worthy of all the good things life has to offer. She no longer seeks perfection, for she knows it doesn't exist. Instead, she celebrates her imperfections as part of what makes her unique. Her flaws do not define her. They enrich her story, adding depth and character to the person she is becoming. She lets go of the need to control everything, surrendering to the flow of life with grace. She trusts that the universe is always working in her favor, even when things don't unfold as expected. Patience has become her greatest ally, and she understands that some of the best things take time to manifest. Her joy is not contingent on external circumstances. She has learned to find peace in the present moment, realizing that true happiness comes from within. No amount of success or material possessions can ever replace the contentment that comes from living authentically and being at peace with who she is. She embraces the idea of less is more, finding simplicity in every area of her life. Whether it's in her possessions, her thoughts, or her commitments, she learns to let go of what no longer serves her. The clutter of excess has no place in her world. She chooses clarity, focus, and intentionality instead. She is constantly evolving, yet grounded in who she is at her core. Her sense of self is unwavering, regardless of the external noise. She is rooted in her truth, knowing that as long as she stays true to herself, she will continue to attract the right experiences, people, and opportunities.